Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.
And don't forget you can get the news out and about when you're on the go as a podcast by simply searching for WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. But coming up today, WWE have got something big planned for Friday.
Raw's ratings have declined after the Hell in a Cell disaster.
Is AEW's Dynamite show tonight in big trouble?
Is Edge paying a rather curious visit to WWE's doctor?
And Becky Lynch's next challenger for her Raw Women's Championship may have been revealed. This is the news.
We're going to kick things off with a story, Adam Wilborn. Given your recent turn, given your descent to broken Adam Wilborn, I don't think you're going to like a whole lot.
No, I ranted a lot yesterday and I really don't want to hear this.
I hope you're ready for this then, brother, because we've got a new report here from Fightful Select, the ever-reliable folks over at Fightful. They've been doing a little bit of digging, a little bit of snooping, a little bit of Louis scooping backstage, trying to find out what the feel is coming out of Hell in a Cell, how the locker room feels about the whole thing, how it has gone down with the wrestlers. And when one talent was asked about Vince McMahon's thoughts on the matter, he said that the big man has insinuated several times that he feels that some people on his roster, and perhaps his product in general, is, and I quote, and get ready for this, too pro wrestling. WWE is too pro wrestling. Now, before I throw the pitch for you to hit the home run, Vince McMahon has obviously always been keen to emphasize that his is a sports entertainment product, not a traditional wrestling show. A lot of that is complete nonsense because it is a wrestling show. It has wrestling matches on it, so therefore. But I'm just gonna let you go, man. Just, I've lit the fuse.
Are you kidding me, Vince? I'm sorry to our editor, I'm sorry. But I read that this morning and I was like, I don't even go into a long rant. What? Your company is called World Wrestling Entertainment. I get it. The word entertainment is in there. I get it. You are sports entertainment. You're about putting smiles on faces. But the essential element is wrestling. It's like the Premier League. They've tried to make it all very global and stuff like that. But they never say, ooh, it's a bit too football for my liking, this. Too pro wrestling. I was going to say something then about his passing, and I don't want to. I don't want to really shoot that hard.
Let's veer away from that.
But the XFL is going to start soon as well.
Yeah, that's going to be too football, isn't it? It's such a weird little statement because it is the pro wrestling business. I think a lot of people will take this statement as, well, he's referring to guys like Seth Rollins and Ricochet and all these other people who maybe aren't the larger than life.
It's facing your company.
Well, this is the thing. These people, objectively, I don't think you can look at Seth Rollins and say, he's a larger than life character or a traditional sports entertainer or this or that and next thing. But here's the thing. Vince McMahon put that guy on top. Vince McMahon helped assemble this talent roster. It's his show, so surely if the product and the roster is too pro wrestling, that's his own goddamn fault.
Am I right in thinking, did I read this yesterday? And obviously this is sort of, no official word on it, it's just sort of reports from backstage. I read somewhere that the main event sort of went exactly how Vince wanted it to go.
Yeah.
And look at how that was reacted to by even me.
He was reportedly laughing at the response to it and stuff. He's a troll, but the thing is, Brian Alvarez summed this up really well on the Brian and Vinny show after Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. He thinks you're just a bunch of marks. He thinks you're going to come back regardless of what happens. Now, we have to come back because we are paid to cover this promotion and so forth.
I said this to my wife. I said, that's it, I think I'm done. And she was like, you have to keep watching for your job. I was like, yeah, I know.
That's the thing.
Still not happy about it.
WWE programming could be the worst thing in the world and we would still have to watch it. We don't have that option. But if you're a viewer at home and you're really pissed off, Vince McMahon's like, hey, well, they're just going to come back next week anyway. He thinks you're a dirty mark. He thinks you're a blind loyalist. That's why he does stuff like this. But yeah, too pro wrestling, it's a wrestling business.
Let's move on, because we've been told by the bosses here this is getting a bit too newsy. So we'll move on and talk about this week's upcoming Friday night SmackDown. And apparently WWE are planning something big ahead of it. They have announced a press conference to be held at the T-Mobile Arena at midday on Friday. Listed attendees include Triple H, Tyson Fury, Braun Strowman, Rey Mysterio, Cain Velasquez, Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman. Now, this would all seem to suggest a sort of blending of more sportsy style product. It's very UFC to do a press conference ahead of a big event, and it would seem that that's probably going to be leading towards not only obviously SmackDown that night, but mainly towards Crown Jewel.
Yeah, you think you're going to get the Fury versus Strowman and Velasquez versus Lesnar matches. Extremely US. It's even in Vegas, for God's sake. It's even in Las Vegas. Fits in with everything we've heard about Fox wanting a more sport-like presentation. Fits in as like a little counter to AEW as well, who've trumpeted this real sport thing constantly. But you know what? I think we also see those two matches coming. We all see Crown Jewel coming and so forth. I've got, and it's something you've spoken about recently as well. What if on Friday they announce the return of the Brawl for All? What's Bart Gunn up to these days?
Yeah.
What's Bart Bean up to these days, man?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that lineup. Tyson Fury, professional boxer. Cain Velasquez, professional fighter. Brock Lesnar, beast.
Let's be honest, we put our houses on the fact that there's going to be a scuffle at that press conference.
There's going to be something.
There's never going to be like, I'll see you at Crown Jewel. It's going
to be Nate Diaz walking in, smoking his weed vape or whatever he had. So like, just Conor McGregor, who the is that guy? Yeah. Give me all that. Give me all that.
You'll do nothing.
I love worked press conferences.
I'm really excited about that, to be fair.
I can't wait to see what they do. It's something new, it's something fresh, it's something interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I just realised that I've got the next story, not you. Raw viewership. So, last week saw them post an okay number. It was the season premiere. It had a lot of hype. It had some guest appearances, all this cool stuff. It drew 2.571 million across the 3-hour broadcast, an average of that number. There was a bit of a decline this week after the Hell in a Cell catastrophe. Numbers are down. The average viewership, according to Show Buzz Daily, is 2.334 million, a decline of over 200k from last week's inflated season premiere. So much more in line with the average viewership for the past few months. Not a disaster by any stretch. Although ratings in general these days are kind of a disaster because they've lost something like 2 million viewers in 4 years, which is terrible. But about what you'd expect, you'd think that Raw and SmackDown will have another inflated number for the draft, which is coming up on the next couple of episodes. That should hold them through. It's going to be super interesting to see where these numbers stabilize at after these big poppers have come through, because you've had the season premieres, you'll have had the draft. What comes after that? You can't call Hulk Hogan or The Rock, or you could probably call Hulk Hogan every week, but The Rock's not coming up every week. Steve Austin's not showing up every week. I can't wait to see how this pans out, particularly with AEW and their success in the 18 to 49 demographic.
Especially, I find, because obviously all our focus is mainly on SmackDown because of the new deal on Fox and their projected figures, etc., etc. But I'm also really intrigued with Monday Night Raw. That will inevitably go up for the draft next week, I think. But if they keep doing shows like Monday Night Raw was this week, it is going to plummet. I realise that the majority of the big talent is probably going to be on SmackDown for obvious reasons. But it was just dreadful this week. It
was just such a holding pattern of a show, wasn't it? Like, they were kind of reliant on you getting something out of that big confrontation with Fury and Braun, and if you didn't enjoy that at the end, you probably came away with a massive negative impression of the show. Everything was like a 5 out of 10. It was just kind of boring and like, hey.
I've already forgotten everything that happened on Monday Night Raw.
And you know, a lot of people have said that, well, you know, they've got the draft, they've got Crown Jewel, they've got Survivor Series after that, they're coming off Hell in a Cell. You know, it's a tough show, but they put themselves in that problem. Like, you can't use that as a reason to let them off the hook. It's self-created.
Yeah, and then I realise they're in this awkward spot, like you say, draft there, Hell in a Cell there. Just put on some great wrestling matches then. Yeah, rather than just, here's Lana shagging Bobby Lashley and then Rusev's, well, he's not getting cooked anymore. Too late, your rooster's been cooked for a long time.
Your rooster's been cooked.
Ridiculous. Right, let's move on and talk about AEW's TV show Dynamite, because it could be in big trouble ahead of tonight. It's been pointed out by eWrestlingNews.com. This is due to a couple of potentially huge baseball games. Some of MLB's National League Playoff Series is going to be going down tonight, and if a game runs over, that is going to be moved onto TNA. This thus holding up the rest of the broadcast that are going to be on TNT. So, if that happens tonight, you could well see Dynamite start a lot later than intended. Yeah. Now, you can take this one of two ways. Either devout AEW fans, and I'm sure some people will have switched over following that bloody awful Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, will just stick around and wait for it. But you can see the casuals saying, what else is on? Potentially switching over to NXT. The Wednesday Night War could get very interesting this week.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see how these numbers emerge if indeed the Dynamite show is debuted, because yeah, that could really affect the show's viewership, as you say, particularly for casual fans who might then get hooked by NXT. Really weird situation kind of unfolding there, really interesting situation. Here's hoping that Dynamite just debuts at 8 and that we have a more traditional head-to-head without any snafus, without any confusion with regards to the ratings and so forth. But, you know, I think the AEW show, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really quite great. It was a good start. I think that will have encouraged a lot of people to stick around.
And I also think for NXT, because I thought NXT's product was arguably as good as, if not slightly better than AEW.
I think a lot of people would agree.
Even if the ratings weren't quite as good. You don't need to change anything with NXT. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's anticipated that AEW will probably blow them out of the water for the most part, for obvious reasons. But don't chop and change NXT, because you're only going to scare off the devout viewers that you already have.
For sure.
They may well, having said all that, switch things around and put what they were going to put as like the big main event potentially first to try and retain viewers. It's going to be very interesting tonight to see what happens.
Wrestling Wars are just awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Wrestling Wars. Edge has nothing to do with that, so this is a really weird transition. But the Rated R superstar, according to PW Insider, if you're sick of all the talk of him potentially returning, well, I'm sorry. Here's a little story about it. Edge was in Pittsburgh yesterday. He was on WWE Business, according to PW Insider. Do you know who else is in Pittsburgh? You know who else is
Nope.
there? WWE Dr. Joseph Maroon, a guy who could realistically give Edge clearance to return to the ring. So, speculation, speculation, speculation. Don't take it as gospel as
Edge
usual.
is coming back to wrestling, baby.
But it's another little breadcrumb in the trail that could well lead to Edge's return, although Edge has denied it, as we reported last week.
Although if you wanted to return to be a big surprise, you would deny it.
Exactly. So
I want him to come back. Everyone wants him to. Everyone would love all our our favourites to come back, but only if it's medically right.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that matters for
as
all
long
of
as
us.
he's safe.
Exactly. Right, let's talk about the WWE Raw Women's Championship. Becky Lynch has torn through all of her opponents recently, even submitting Sasha Banks inside Hell in a Cell on Sunday in what was, well, one of the real highlights, to be perfectly honest.
An awesome match.
Even though you may be disappointed that Sasha, what's happening with her next, and Bayley, to be perfectly honest. But Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer has suggested that Becky Lynch's next opponent could well be one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the woman who just looks amazing now and slightly insane if you saw that photo of her on Reddit Squared Circle, Asuka. That is a feud I would love to see run back. And it was sort of referenced on Monday Night Raw as well this week.
Yeah, that Royal Rumble match was really, really awesome. It was at the Royal Rumble they had that singles match, wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah, because Becky lost and then won the Rumble. It was really good stuff. Yeah, I'd like to see it again. Asuka back in the spotlight somewhat in this after winning the Tag Team Championship. She's a heel now. That's pretty cool. The Mist is pretty cool. Yeah, I'm all for it. If we get another banger match out of it, cool, thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's about damn time they started pushing Asuka again, and you've got loads to work with in terms of Becky Lynch as the man character has kind of torn through everyone except for that little asterisk on her record, which is Asuka, as you mentioned at the Royal Rumble. I'd like to see it run back, but we'll have to wait and see because everything could change, to be perfectly honest, due to the draft. Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch. Hi to Daniel Holland, who's given us our first question today, who says, quick question, as WWE like to throw two random wrestlers who aren't a tag team at all, then push them as a combo, which would you have?
For Bobby Lashley and Rusev.
Oh!
Just because, like, it just seems like the kind of random crap they would do, doesn't it? Like, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily like to see it, but like, hey, these guys are like in a love triangle now, and they're like all like promiscuous and stuff. Nah, I don't really want to see that. Random tag teams. Have you got any ideas?
I always like the little and large pairings, so I'm going to go with Titus O'Neil, obviously.
Obviously.
Who could be the newest member of Titus Worldwide? Drake Maverick. Because I'd like to see Drake wrestling a lot more.
Yeah,
I think he's really, really good.
He's a cheeky little scamp,
and he'd
isn't he?
fit right in with that whole Titus Worldwide dynamic.
For sure. I guess I kind of have to give a serious answer here to not be
To
a bell
balance
end.
things out.
Yeah, to not be a bell end, but you know, like, if they're not going to throw Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns in a title scene anytime soon,
please.
That tag match was really quite awesome. Yeah, give us the Graveyard Dogs 2.0 info. The Undertaker's not in it. I don't have a better name for them, but Reigns and Bryan. I like them.
Yeah, vegan dogs.
The vegan dogs.
Let's move on. Charles Yarnold gives us our second question of today. He says, if you were to brand a monthly box service for a wrestler, what would it be, what for, and what's the tagline? Charles's is Braun Strowman's steak box. Get these
Oh, is this like one of those, like a loot crate box?
Yeah, exactly.
Thing? Oh, wow.
I've got one, whilst you're thinking of it, okay? Picture the scene, get home. You want to sort of recreate Ghost with your partner, okay? Who wants to play with Nikki?
You killed me. I've got two answers. God. An educational one.
Good.
With Luchasaurus. Every week, every month, you get a new dinosaur, a little toy.
Oh,
that's information
really
on the
nice.
dinosaur. It's really cool. A little play set at the end, you can make a little thing. That'd be really cool. Or Roman Reigns, dog accessories, because who knows more about dogs than the big
That's
dog?
great, yeah.
Hey, everyone's over there.
I tell you what, you can have that for free, WWE. Final question today comes from Justin Walter, who's expressing a lot of sentiment felt by WWE fans right now. Says, what's the next logical step for The Fiend? I personally think being cooked by Doink isn't a bad idea.
Holy crap.
I mean, what is the next logical step for The
Cooked
Fiend?
by Doink. Where the hell have you got that from? That's amazing. Cooked by Doink does make sense, actually, when you put it together. Paul Heyman's back now. It's so hard. They've dug themselves such a deep hole with this. I do think that maybe there is still some lingering fan support for The Fiend, and maybe this could result...
We don't hate The Fiend because of what happened to Hell in a Cell.
Yeah,
we hate Vince.
I do think the character's a bit diminished and so forth, but the thing is, they've kind of reached the point where they have to do something different rather than just having him show up and kill people every week. But that's kind of what he needs to do at the same time. It's a really difficult situation. You know what? Perhaps the best thing to do is just book the impromptu rematch on an episode of Raw and have The Fiend win the way he should have won. Maybe he comes out with Seth Rollins, like he's battered him backstage, he's dragged him behind him, he just puts him in the ring and pins him. Maybe that might work.
Get the title on him. I think I saw this suggested somewhere. I was a bit like, and then I was like, oh, you know what? If Bray cuts a promo inside the Firefly Funhouse and says, you know, Seth, you tried to take everything from me. You tried to end my career, so I'm going to take everything from you, which concludes, of course, with the Universal Championship, but begins with him mandible clawing Becky Lynch.
Oh my goodness.
Because I can see WWE doing that because they like being like, oh, these two are shagging, don't forget that. Right, let's move on to today's and finally. I think we've done this one before, but it pops me every time I see it. Do you want to see how Finn Balor got around town before getting his US driver's license, Andy Murray?
Yes, I do.
Well, you know, some people take the bus, some people, I don't know, ride a scooter. Finn Balor gets a lift with Albert.
Wow, he looks like Albert's son.
It looks so good. I love this image.
Is that former NXT announcer Jason Albert?
Indeed.
Yeah?
Indeed.
Legend.
What was he called? Lord Tensai?
That's a different person, mate.
How is it?
Yeah, Prince Albert was A-Train. They're all different guys. Are you saying all bald people look the same?
Let's move on quickly. Don't forget to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. And you can tweet your Twitter questions to us at WhatCultureWWE. Or actually, they can follow both of us. You can follow Jules, of course, who's sat next to me here. You
can follow me at Simon Miller 316.
You can follow me at Adam Wilborn. You can follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. My thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
Bald.